Okay, Jason, conditions of purchase.
Yes.
We'll probably do this one in two sections. Talk to me about conditions of purchase.
Okay, so this is kind of this. I don't know why I think this is cool. Some I was dropped as a child. Anyway, but this is kind of cool. So this deals with the same contract deadlines. So we've got seller disclosures, due diligence, financing and appraisal, settlement deadline, right?
Okay.
So we just went over seller disclosures.
Okay.
There is a deadline on that. If you don't get the disclosures in time, contract's voidable, right? So, and we went over the importance of that. Now, we're hitting due diligence. So in the purchase contract, you can make the contract conditioned on this section. So right there it says, buyer's obligation to purchase the property is or is not conditioned upon buyer's due diligence.
This is the one where it's in my history buying and selling homes, especially back in the day, I would do a condition based on selling my home, and then I'd get a buyer who had a condition of buying my home based on his. And then in this particular case, there was that same condition again.
Yeah, the Trimble effect. Now that's covered in section 2.2.
What did you call that? The shrivel?
The domino effect? The trickle down?
Okay.
Either one. Like, because it's
Yes.
right? So it's either dominoes or you miss one of those and five people don't get their house.
Ladder. Yes.
So, but yeah, now the condition on sale of the house is section 2.2, and that's super important. And like, I still see people saying, well, it's not really conditioned on the sale of their house because their house is already under contract and it'll happen, right? Like, no. If that fails, do they need to sell their house to make this possible? That's the way it needs to be disclosed, right? You need to let them know. If they don't sell their current house, they're not buying your house. Now, if there's another option, like they can rent it out or they've got enough income to make both payments, like it doesn't need to be conditioned in that they're like trying to sell it but they don't need it. Yeah, sure. But if
those darn lenders, those mortgage guys,
making things
what a
difficult.
pain in the butt they are.
Yeah.
So I actually learned something from you on my last home purchase. I was thinking about actually buying a home, and rather than renting,
Mm-hmm.
and then while I was owning this home and hoping for some appreciation on this one, I was building this one over here. And that was going pretty well, and I had a realtor who was more than happy to help me execute this plan, only to find out that if I couldn't prove that I could make both house payments, it was mortgage fraud. So at the very last minute, I had to back out of this home and then go rent something so that I could build my wife's princess castle.
It's beautiful though, right?
It kind of is.
Yeah, it's impressive. Okay, so this first one is the due diligence. So, due diligence shall consist of buyer's review and approval of the contracts and everything else. So, this is the buyer looking at the home, the school district. I have buyers contact me all the time. They're like, we're not sure if we want this house.
Mm-hmm.
And right now it's hopping, right? Like a house goes on the market and there's offers pretty quick. It's unusual, especially in the lower price points, for it to sit there.
Right.
And like, but I'm not sure I want to buy this house. Well, congratulations. Like, welcome to life. Like, are we sure? So in this section is where, so you find a house that meets the criteria. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you need 5 bedrooms, 3 baths. Here's a house with 5 bedrooms, 3 baths. It looks like it's in the area you want. It looks decent. Let's write an offer. Okay? Then you start going, all right, does everything work for me? We're going to get the seller's disclosures. We're going to review those. We're going to talk to the neighbors. We're going to check out the local whatevers,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're going to do all the things to see if they really like it. If you write the contract that's conditional upon the due diligence, if the buyer's like, I don't like it 'cause, they're out.
Mm-hmm.
They back out, they get their earnest money back because they're following the due diligence. It's their ability to back out. Now, they can say, Yeah, we did a home inspection. We found out that there's radon, or we found out something. Even like radon, that's a big deal.
There's
So
yellow
what's-
paint. Yeah. Yeah, what I tell people is they can, as a result of the inspection, they can back out for any or no reason.
Yeah. Yeah. So if there's minor repairs, they're like, oh crumb, we weren't aware that there wasn't a drain overflow in the bathroom sink, and we have little kids, and they'll flood our house. Like
Uh-huh.
we're just, you put a drain overflow in the bathroom sink, or we're backing out.
Mhm.
And the seller's like, well, that's stupid because I live in China.
Yeah.
Anyway, something and they say, okay, you're done. So typically, this the due diligence deadline isn't that far out,
Right.
but it gives the buyer time to go through and make sure that everything works, like not like functions properly, but that they're emotionally sound in the purchase of the home, this particular home, for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's probably worth mentioning that you don't have to hire a home inspector. You could hire Jason, and
Yeah, yeah.
you could hire a contractor. You could hire a handyman. You could hire Uncle Joe, and it's entirely up to you
Right.
as the buyer.
Yeah, yeah.
It might be a better idea to hire somebody who knows what he's talking about
Exactly.
in the home inspection category.
And this is your time where you can read the CC&R's 112 pages of legal mumbo jumbo that have all been changed in the Third and Fifth amendments, which changed the subject of the original document, right? Anyway, okay.
So much bedtime reading.
Yeah, it's fun. But that's the section to do it. Okay, now we're gonna hit two of these, and the other two we're gonna hit the next. So the appraisal condition.
Okay.
Okay. This one is or is not conditioned upon appraisal, right? So, and they actually lump this one in with financing on your deadlines, but we're going to cover it separately here. Okay. So, condition on the appraisal. So, does this mean that if the appraisal doesn't come in at value, you back out?
You can. I guess I'm going to say that if you don't like whatever the number is, you can back out. That's my best guess. Guess being underlined and bolded.
Yeah, okay, yeah, perfect. So this one says that appraising for not less than the purchase price.
Okay.
So appraised value comes in low, you say away we go. Now on FHA and VA, on those two government loans, there's actually the independent addendum that goes along with this that says if the appraised value comes in less than the purchase price at any time, the buyer gets all their earnest money back and they walk away free and clear, right? So this one says you have until this day to cancel because
Oh.
it comes in,
Interesting.
right? So if their lender or the appraiser is dragging their feet and you get the appraisal back after the appraisal deadline,
Uh-huh.
then that's too bad.
Then, then the seller's hosed if the buyer wants to get out.
Exactly. Well, the buyer's hosed if they want to get out because they missed their. Now they've got to
Oh,
figure out how do they
yeah.
come up with the extra money because this didn't appraise for it, and they're still under contract.
Ouch.
Yeah, we're burning through the section. We need more stories.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, well, I have one. It's that same. I actually used this paragraph in my experience, because the same transaction I was just talking about, where I was going to buy house A while I was building house B. This one, my realtor says, "Oh, it's worth $450," and I did a little bit of research, and I found it was worth $410. And I talked to her. She said, "Oh, it's definitely worth $450." And the appraiser came in and he said $415. And I'm like, and she goes, I talked to her and I said, "Hey, what up?" She says, "Oh, no problem. Just bring $40,000 to the table." And close."
I have that in my wallet, so
Yeah.
that's a fine, right?
I'm thinking, this isn't my dream home. That Princess Castle over there is not going to happen if I bring $40,000 to the table.
Yeah.
And so we actually used this paragraph to get out of that deal.
Yeah. Didn't come in at value, away we go.
Yeah.
Right. So the FHA VA addendum with the mandatory language states appraisal deadline's kind of null and void if it comes in below value. So interesting point, a lot of builders don't like to sign the FHA VA addendum because they have construction deposits, right? They're building a custom home for people that now, if these people upgrade, make the house way more valuable than the comparable homes.
Which is their business model.
So
So they sell you a home that's, let's say, $450,
uh-huh.
and you actually end up getting nice cabinets and good flooring and better lighting and better paint, molding, etc. Now it's $520.
Uh-huh.
How does that get in the way of this section?
Well, if you are the only 520 among all your 450s, you don't have anything to compare to rate your value. Yes, you have granite countertops with crystal balusters on the stairway, and yeah, it's fancy, and yes, it is worth to you every dollar that you paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
But when the bank comes in and needs to move a property, it's in this area without any other fancy homes, so now it's worth just what every other home is.
Got it.
So that creates a problem because per the appraisal condition, you have your appraisal done, it appraises value there, doesn't matter, you got to buy the home. You do the amendatory language, value doesn't come in. The buyer gets their $20,000 construction deposit back, and you've got an overbuilt home that you can't sell. Anyway, so that is the appraisal condition.
Okay. All right. Makes sense.
Should we keep going?
Let's keep going.
Okay, the financing condition changed. So they rewrote this contract in 2017.
So we've got, thus far, we've got three conditions thus far. The due diligence, which is, for me, that's the home inspection thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got the me thing and the you thing and the those other guys thing. So you're the lender. I'm the home
Yeah.
inspector. You're the lender, and then we got the appraiser.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah.
Okay. And now we're talking about the appraiser.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Let's roll.
So, well, this we covered the appraisal. The next one coming up is financing.
Okay. Okay. We had A, B, and C versus C, A, and B.
Yeah.
Got it.
So now we're on financing. This is my game. So they've changed it 3 years ago now. It used to be recently. Where it used to be like if you can't get financing, that's a problem. You can back out. Listen to the language now. So it's either no financing required or financing required. Now, if financing is required, this is how it reads. Condition to purchase the property is conditioned on the buyer obtaining the loan referenced in section 2.1. This is the finance condition. And wrong paragraph. Okay. Edit that out.
Okay. Edited.
Okay. So the financing condition has changed from 2017 because it used to say that you had to be able to get financing.
Okay.
Now it says this: if buyer, in the buyer's sole discretion, is not satisfied with the terms and conditions of the loan, buyer may, after the due diligence deadline referenced in section 24B, if applicable, cancel the Rep C by providing written notice to the seller no later than the financing and appraisal deadline.
For any or no reason. And that's by the financing and appraisal deadline.
Right. So this is the deadline right before settlement.
That's the last deadline of all the deadlines.
The second to last deadline. The settlement is the last one. The settlement's like we're signing papers, right?
Mhm.
So this is interesting because
So he can cancel the day before settlement.
if your financing and appraisal deadline is that day, yeah. Here's the thing. So when I'm advising my real estate agents
Mm-hmm.
with a buyer who's working on stuff to get their things, like for instance, I've got one right now. We'll go through the story. If the buyers, okay, let me tell the story. I've
Go
got a
for it.
buyer. They want to buy zero down. They thought.
Okay.
So they went and qualified for a home. They do. They can get a loan, borrow money, a second mortgage for the down payment. The ratios work. Everything works to buy the home. Now it's interesting because the credit scores affect the interest rate on zero down loans a little different than they are presently with down payment loans.
So if you to interpret, if you got a better credit score and you're doing a zero down, what sort of difference does that make?
Nothing.
Okay.
If you got a worse credit score and you're doing a zero down, nothing. As long as you are, for this program, 660 or above,
Okay.
we can make it work, right? For the tier of loan they're looking at, 680 and above works. So their credit score is just below 680.
Okay.
They don't have money down. So they can buy a home. However,
They can't.
they can.
Okay.
They can, but their payment's going to be a few $100 more than if they came up with a down payment. But here's your problem. So they need to pay down some debt.
Mm-hmm.
We need time for that to reflect and repull their credit. Then they need to come up with a down payment that I can document to get out of the zero down, because they need to bump their credit score and come up with down payment, right? So can they buy a house zero down? Yes. In the meantime, while we're working this transaction, they're working on things. So if we get to the end and their credit didn't come up, or they end up not being able to come up with a full down payment, even though they qualified to buy the house,
Mm-hmm.
they can be like, we're going to hold off. We're going to back out. We're going to give it a shot again in a month or two when we've got the rest of the down payment or the...
So they
the
do
credit
have
score.
the ability to back out pretty much all the way till the bitter end.
Right. The other problem is, so not everybody understands how credit scores work or
Uh-huh.
the impact they have on lending. So, and maybe they're just doing, working with a loan officer or a mortgage company that isn't in depth and explains everything that's going on, right? So they get under contract, they run up their credit card debt, they still meet the monthly obligations, right? They can still qualify the debt to income ratio, no
Mhm.
problem. But because they maxed out a few credit cards or opened a new one, it dropped their score. And now they don't qualify for the rate they wanted. They can still get the home, but the rate's higher.
So yeah, let's say that I go to Home Depot and I'm buying $500 worth of stuff, and they say, "Hey, we'll give you 10% off."
Yeah.
Even if I intend to pay that off immediately, that still drops my credit rating.
Yeah, so you open up a new card.
Uh huh.
The lender does a soft pull on your credit, sees a new card there, sees you have a new account that's maxed out,
Mm-hmm.
says, we need to check your score because this could affect your score. Now you have a lower score. Now you have a higher interest rate. Can you make it work? Yeah, you could.
But that
But you're like,
that 10% discount costs a lot of money.
yeah.
Yeah, probably at least $50 per month in the future. And you do actually have a credit explained course where you talk about that sort of thing. That's one of the course options.
Yeah. So there's that. So this also covers some meaty stuff. So
Time out. Let's break.